Hello class, and welcome to this BurgerTime strategy class here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate, our American viewers. We wanted to do something food-related, food-themed for this class this week, and just kind of a relaxed class in general. That said, BurgerTime is no slouch. It's actually one of the more difficult arcade, well, anytime you deal with an arcade game, it's going to be a tough out, but this is one of the more difficult arcade, platformer, sort of puzzle games. The AI makes this game tricky, we'll cover that. In terms of difficulty though, I'm going to give BurgerTime a 7 out of 10, which on the frustration scale equates to punching a hole through the wall, or maybe in Thanksgiving terms going back to the spread, the table, and finding out all of the stuffing is gone, the gravy, whatever your side of choice is. We're all out. But don't worry, we've got you covered with some tips. Fluff has some interesting facts about this game. So let's run the intro and get into this BurgerTime strategy right here on Video Games 101. Man, video game commercials used to be fun. Alright, as we start a new game here, let's take a look at the controls for BurgerTime. Couldn't be simpler. A and B. Your pepper, of course. Movement with the D-pad up and down the ladders. As we take a look now at the Briggs notes, the keys in this BurgerTime strategy. First, work from the top. The objective of the game is to weight down these ingredients. When you have an enemy on them, when you drop them, they drop down farther, so do that whenever possible. Always have an exit strategy, never get cornered. And hold on to that pepper. It's gold in this game, and the talk about pepper is Blaze.
Alright, let's talk about the items you will find in BurgerTime. It's a short list this week, class, where we just have pepper in all of its different forms. You know them. First, the obvious, pepper is pepper. But did you also know, class, that ice cream is pepper? Gravy can be used as pepper, and you better believe that French fries, yes, can be used as pepper. Use these to ward off the enemies in this game, buy yourself some time, or even trap them on a burger to weight it down as the professor mentioned earlier, but pepper. Know it, find it, use it, cherish it. There's only so many, so be careful.
Thank you very much, Blaze. Yes, whenever one of those power-ups, let's call them, appears in the middle of the screen or wherever it pops up, you can grab that to replenish one of your peppers. But yes, in addition to being a life-saving spice when we get cornered, we can also use it to freeze enemies on top of a bun or whatever is at the top of the chain, and then just walk past them with that weight and have it drop down farther. And we'll get into more specifics about the enemy AI and how the weight affects the ingredients dropping in from the top in a second, but now let's go to Fluff for a Fluff fact about BurgerTime, 1982 from Data East. Fluff?
BurgerTime is a 1982 arcade game developed by Data East for its DECO cassette system. Simply titled Hamburger in Japan, but purportedly changed for the international releases to avoid potential trademark issues, the game was developed by creator Akio Nakamura. And what is one of my favorite facts I've ever shared about a video game, Nakamura first came up with the idea for BurgerTime while eating a hamburger and thinking about the process of making it. In BurgerTime, players play as Chef Peter Pepper as they race to complete burgers while enemies Mr. Hot Dog, Mr. Pickle, and Mr. Egg chase after them. The characters were made to be cartoonishly cute to appeal to both children and adult players alike. The game was a big success for Data East and spawned a number of ports, including one for the Famicom in 1985, as well as a number of sequels and spin-offs like BurgerTime Deluxe, Super BurgerTime, and the very forgettable Peter Pepper's Ice Cream Factory.
Thank you, Fluff. Yeah, we generally keep an open mind about what classes we're going to do or what games we're going to feature in these classes, but I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say that Peter Pepper's Ice Cream Factory is probably never going to be featured on this channel. Is what it is, don't cry. Anyway, we're exercising the third Briggs note right now and just trying to stay away, trying to stay alive. And there we go. Little weight gets us through to the third stage. Now let's talk about enemy AI in this game. The first thing to mention is that, save for a couple examples, I think mostly in Stage 4, which is the next stage I believe, the enemies are always coming towards you. There's no random movements where they're just kind of bouncing around the stages. They're always coming toward you. What does affect their behavior sometimes when you'll say, oh, why did they walk away from me? Like those hot dogs just got off the ladder right there. If there is a floor between you and the enemies, vertically speaking, they will get off on that floor and they'll still try to get to you, but they'll take that exit and then come to the next ladder and come at you that way. The other exception is if there is a ladder between you and the enemy on horizontal flat ground. And depending on the type of enemy, that will determine the move they make with that ladder. So, a bit complex. Not really that complex, but if we have a hot dog or a pickle enemy, and there is an option for there's a ladder which can go up between ourselves and the enemy, they will take that ladder every time. If we are dealing with the egg enemy, and there's a ladder between us, and it can go down, they will take that ladder. So, if there's a ladder between us that goes up, and there's an egg coming after us, they will ignore that ladder and come straight for us. Conversely, if there is a hot dog or a pickle coming toward us, and a ladder which is pointing down, they will ignore that ladder and come straight for us. So, I would like to say it's an easy to remember hot dog down, they take the ladder down, but that's not the case. It's actually the reverse of that, so. But there you go, that's the enemy AI in BurgerTime. Simple as it is in a nutshell, but when you're in the heat of the moment, the battle, fighting for your life here from these mutated ingredients that are out to murder you for whatever reason, like something out of one of my nightmares, then yeah, it's kind of hard to think in terms of, okay, this hot dog is going to ignore me and, you know, take the or not ignore me, but take that ladder up in that case. Your brain doesn't really think like that when these enemies are trying to surround you. Every now and then, if you put a lot of distance between yourselves and the enemies, then when you kind of bunch them all together, eventually they will sort of group up together just by virtue of how these levels are laid out. But in that case, then you do have a little bit more wiggle room and you can anticipate, okay, that enemy's going to take that ladder here. They're all going to get off on this floor here because there's a floor between us, and so on. But the later stages in the game, you'll find there are less of these ladders between you and the enemies. It's more direct routes between you and the enemies, and that's where the difficulty ramps up, obviously. As we are about to clear the 4th floor here. Here we go. 2/3 through this game. Have 4 peppers in the chamber. Again, that is the gold of this game. Hold on to it. Only use it when your back is against the wall. And let's get another Fluff fact with Fluff.
I mentioned the DECO cassette system earlier. This was Data East's arcade system board released in 1980 and was the first board to allow for interchangeable games, making it an early success for arcade owners looking for cost-cutting and simplicity. As the name suggests, the games were stored on audio cassette tapes. The arcade owner would insert the cassette and something called a key module into the cabinet. The data from the tape was copied onto the cabinet's RAM chip when it was powered on, and just like that, the game could be played until the machine was powered off again. Initially a success, the DECO cassette system was discontinued in 1985 after complaints from arcade owners about long loading times as well as the poor quality of most of the games. Arcade owners also found the key modules and game tapes to be unreliable, the latter of which could easily be demagnetized. Despite its faults, the DECO cassette system paved the way for future interchangeable arcade systems like Sega's Converti-Game system in 1981 and Nintendo's popular Versus system, which I've talked about before, in 1984.
Thank you very much, Fluff. Yes, I do remember talking about the Versus system. That was a strange level 5 being out on an island like that. But as you can see, there's very little ladders on the same floor. In this stage, everything's kind of broken up in such a way that you can't rely on those tricks anymore, so the best strategy is just to keep as much space between you and the enemies as possible. And I said I would talk about this earlier, we kind of glossed over it, but the waiting system, as we get the egg to drop down in here, in this game, if we just drop an ingredient on our own, like this bun right here, if we didn't have the egg on it, it would just drop down 1 floor. With an enemy, it drops down 3 floors, and if you can get 2 or more enemies on an ingredient, it'll drop pretty much all the way down. So that's the way to do it. It's hard enough getting 1 enemy on one of these ingredients at a time, but thought I could get a twofer on that pepper there. We are out of pepper now, so we may lose our first life here. This is another one of those levels where you can see the enemies are getting a little bit stuck right there, one of those exceptions. And I think we have a clear route. There we go. Burger time. At this point, it just loops back to the first level. Unfortunately, Peter Pepper is doomed to spend his eternity being chased by these ingredients, but that's our time. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already to enroll in this class. We do one of these classes every single week, and we'll see you next week in the same spot for next week's class. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.